Hello and welcome to TI Now at Mobile World Congress Americas 2017 here in San Francisco. We're joined today by Melissa Tai, Vice President, Public Policy of Verizon, and Paul Schomburg, Director of Government and Public Affairs with Panasonic. Thank you both for joining us here today.
Thanks for having us.
Question, you're about to go into a panel session on digitizing municipal infrastructure. When we think about connected communities, what are some of the ways that you think about the basic foundation of connected communities and the applications that can be derived from that type of connectivity? What are some of the ways that small and mid-sized communities will benefit from this type of connectivity? Paul?
Sure. Panasonic has done some smart city work in the Denver area at the Penn Station outside of Denver Airport. So we're combining smart grid, microgrid with energy storage and smart transportation to create an integrated environment for smart cities that gives the community an overall viewpoint of how to manage the services for the citizens there.
And Melissa, what's the input from Verizon's perspective?
Sure, so I think for us, the key word is partnership, and I think the biggest way that communities can benefit from smart city or smart community applications is coming to Verizon and talking about the specific challenges that they face and how they want to solve them, and then we can work with them to figure out what way to solve those problems and those challenges in a way that works for that community, meeting their aesthetic concerns, budgetary concerns, or whatever that might be. So there's really a plethora of smart community solutions out there. There's smart lighting, there's smart grid, there's parking, there's security, there's public safety. But I think what communities want to think about is what's most important to them and work with us, have us on the same side of the table facing the challenge and just determining what the best way for that community to solve for that problem is for them.
And so are there a couple of examples from a Verizon perspective today of products that you're offering into the marketplace that you could point to?
Sure. So one solution that we have, we recently acquired a company called Sensity. They're a smart cities company. They have a smart lighting platform that attaches to existing infrastructure, and not only does it offer smart lighting, but other smart solutions can be attached to it, whether that's intelligent video or parking, transportation, etc. So that's a great example of how a city can take one platform and attach many different things depending on what their need is. We also have a smart kiosk, which is a digital kiosk that we can place. Usually it's in more urban areas that receive a lot of foot traffic. And cities can do things with it, such as use it as a Wi-Fi station for people. You can use it for digital signage and advertising, so it can be a revenue source. It can also be a way for people to gain information such as bus schedules or upcoming community events. And it can also be a way for people to get in touch with law enforcement quickly, kind of like what people might remember as the blue phones on college campuses. So there's a number of applications that can be used from those digital kiosks.
And Paul, you're from a very famous consumer products company and many other areas. What sort of technologies or products do you put in place in the marketplace for IoT, for smart communities?
Well, Panasonic first talks with the city government. We have a 5 pillars process that helps break down the silos between government so that you can have a unified approach for deploying smart cities. IoT can be very solution specific, but when you integrate them into a system using great wireless services or broadband networks, you can create a much greater value for both the government and for the citizens in the community. Examples already mentioned, smart parking. Panasonic has done a lot of large venue solutions where you have thousands of people coming to a sports arena who want to have a great experience, and parking is one of the key issues that everyone has to deal with there. So the quicker you can get people to parking and also show them where they can go after the event to a restaurant or to retail shops, all those things help build the value of IoT for the community and for the government from a revenue standpoint as well.
When you think, Paul, of the sort of the federal government's role in facilitating these types of investments and changes in the landscape for communities, I know just before the August recess, the Senate passed the Digit Act. And can you talk a bit about the type of initiatives that you're seeing from a federal perspective to facilitate?
Well, I will say that we've heard from municipalities and mayors that there is a federal role in coordinating issues like security, privacy. What are the expectations that we to benchmark on from a nationwide perspective? What the Digit Act does is it creates an interagency task force to coordinate among the different federal agencies, their roles, and helps create a standard operating procedure for cities to use as a template. As we've seen in the last week with these two hurricanes hitting Houston and now Florida, security and emergency response, being a resilient community is just as important as when your next bus is coming. So there's definitely a federal role in overseeing and helping communities be more smart and more resilient.
And what do we think about partners at the state and the municipal level? What do they need to do? And this is for both of you, if I may, but let's start with you. What do they need to do to prepare for these types of technologies? We think about siting as an example, but does it go beyond siting as well?
So I do think that for us, we view siting as really the most important, and not so much that the city needs to do anything, but just that they need to make sure that they've got the right policies and practices in place so that when we go in to upgrade our network, so that we can ensure that whatever smart city solution we're deploying is on the best possible network for that solution, that we can do so quickly to meet their needs. There have been cases where it's taken years to deploy our solutions, and it's really hurdles. And again, it's kind of coming back to that idea that this is a partnership, and that if we work together and we view ourselves as on the same side of the table facing the challenge, that's really the best approach to look at it. Because we want to help them meet their challenges through these smart city solutions, but we need their help to meet our challenges as we try to deploy our network. Because the bottom line is that as more and more devices are connected to the network, whether these are smart city, whether they're consumer IoT, whether it's industrial IoT, we're going to need to upgrade the network, and we're going to need to work with cities to do that.
Paul, from the Panasonic Sphere?
I think cities are really interested in doing more with less funds too, so doing their work more efficiently, effectively, being able to know when a street light goes down and being able to replace that on a timely basis. Managing the traffic that comes into the city, knowing if there's a traffic jam that they have to dispatch resources to. We've been working with Colorado DOT to build in smart highway solutions through the mountains of I-70 corridor. And there, you don't know on one side of the mountain what the weather will be on the other side. So having those, 5G will really play an important role in extending the range of visibility and preparing the road system for autonomous vehicles.
When you think about the future, and I was on another panel yesterday actually, on the topic of the citizen consumer. So if you're a citizen of a municipality, if you think about 5 years from now, and we talked about some of the specifics, but what would be the most noticeable difference in a connected environment, in an urban environment, with these types of investments? If you're a citizen waking up in the morning and going to go to work, what would you begin to see the effects of these types of investments, Melissa?
Well, again, it really is going to depend on what the priorities of that community are. I think what we think would be universally applicable is something that Paul mentioned, which is being able to do more with less. I don't know that there's a community out there that isn't facing budget constraints, and a lot of urban populations are growing. So I'd like to think that's one way that residents would be able to feel that, is the feeling that they are getting more for value for their tax dollars. It's similar to the idea of, what your doctor tells you, that it's much more cost effective to do an annual physical and address problems before they arise rather than wait until it's an emergency. And hopefully we'll be able to see more of that and do more of that with IoT solutions. Trends are showing that one area that's been that there's been a lot of interest in addressing is transportation. I don't know a person out there that enjoys their commute or thinks that it couldn't be a little less tedious or stressful. So I think that's something that cities are really interested in addressing, and just kind of making their communities, whether it's a residential area, one that people are happy to live in because it's easy to get to their jobs, or if it's a business area, something that's easy to get to for people. So I think transportation will be one, whether it's making public transportation more accessible for all areas of a city, or reducing traffic jams, reducing pedestrian fatalities, et cetera. I think those are things that communities are really interested in adopting.
Paul?
Well, I think a lot of the improvements probably will be transparent to most of the citizens, but there will be ways that the cities can help improve services to marginalized communities, to overcome the digital barriers that some communities have for wireless broadband service. Melissa mentioned the Sensity solution as potentially, providing a citywide wireless service that can help kids in school and provide ways for people with disabilities to find their way around the city more easily. All those things are going to help address some of the gaps that we have in our society.
Great. Paul, Melissa, thanks so much for joining us today. We'll follow up on these issues with both you and your companies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.